Hello Buttercup, welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. This is a classic fantasy novel, usually aimed at kids, but it's grown into a wider audience as the years go by. It was written in, I'm going to say, the late 1960s, and then the very popular The Last Unicorn cartoon movie came out in 1984, I do believe, or it's 1986. One of those. And I might have gotten those mixed up, but the movie's from the 80s, and I grew up watching the movie over and over and over again, which that seems to be on theme with a lot of other kids around my age, even into the 90s and the early 2000s. It was just a very popular movie, and it's still a very popular book. Okay, I looked it up, and the movie, because it was gonna bother me, the movie was released in 1982. The book released in 1968. At least I got the book publication correct. But I have a lot of notes, so I might be reading off these notes because they're very in-depth. Finally, I actually have in-depth notes. I haven't read from this for a long time, but I needed to say what I have to say about this book because it took 7 long months of 2023 to find a physical copy. And this is a used copy, and I like it. I don't love it, but I do enjoy the illustrations in each chapter, so that's a bonus. But for a very long time, couldn't find a physical copy other than like if it was $35 or something outrageous like that, and I wasn't going to buy it. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know the book. I watched the movie. That doesn't mean that it's the same, you know. It's actually fairly accurate to the book, but I don't know. I didn't know. So I went with just kind of waiting it out and researching where to find the paperback or a hardcover or whatever physical copy. And I did find it listed on Amazon, but I thought it was sketchy because in brackets it says something along the lines of, we can't promise what type of cover arrives, which that seems sketchy, right? But I did more digging, and after a couple of months I was like, okay, so this is a legit posting. Okay, we'll just buy a copy, and so this is what arrived. Ta-da! Interesting story, and I've been asked a few times if the journey of 7 months was worth it for this novel, and I would say yes, a light yes, but still a yes. So let's get into all the things about The Last Unicorn that I loved and that I did not like. I think first and foremost that I'm not a fan of with this book is the world building is not there. Unfortunately, the butterfly, for example, in the beginning sings a lot of songs that are modern-ish for this world, or just for like the 1960s, and some songs that the butterfly mentions is this world in the 1800s, the 1700s, the 20th century, and then he mentions in his song the A train. Okay, I thought this is a medieval fantasy world. Why are we talking about the A train? I would love to know, butterfly. Are there like different dimensions or something like that? I don't know. It was never talked about. And then a bit later into the novel, there's mentions of pistols and rhinos. So what is this world, and what is the setting? And like I said, are there different dimensions? I don't know. I just don't know. It was kind of hard to suspend my disbelief because of those really modern instances in the novel, or we're in a Eurocentric medieval fantasy setting and we're talking about rhinos and elephants, they'll just drop a mention of a pistol or a gun, but they aren't using those. They're using swords and daggers and bows and arrows. A little confusing, right? I'm glad you agree. It's not just me. Because of that, I'm not 100% sure, actually, if this is a medieval fantasy setting, but I would say like 90% of it indicates that it is, but then there's, you know, the 10% that does not make sense. So I was slightly bothered, if you couldn't tell, about that situation. I'm just gonna say situation. Maybe plot holes, or just an editor's error. It could be a lot of things, but I'll just go with there are some problems with the world building. So we see the traveling trope in this book, just like other classics of this time period, like Narnia and The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. This wasn't too bad regarding the travel trope, because it's only, at least this copy, 212 pages long, and I was invested in the unicorn trying to find the other missing unicorns. But if it was longer, I could have started to be a little bothered. I think it was a good length for the traveling trope. I know like a lot of epic fantasy is a lot of traveling, and that's kind of expected because it's a very popular fantasy trope, even in not epic fantasy, but I think you see it a little bit more nowadays. I don't know if this counts as epic fantasy. I know that Lord of the Rings does. And I'm not 100% sure what the C.S. Lewis books are other than fantasy, like what's the subgenre. I'm unsure of the subgenre of this because it's not long enough to be epic fantasy. I mean, now it's classified as classic fantasy, right? But I don't know like what else is this except fantasy. Now, the traveling carnival and the unicorn getting caught up in that whole situation was interesting, and that's where we meet Schmendrick, the magician. Not a huge fan of him, because he was funny at first, and he was helpful at first, but by the middle of the novel, I was just a bit annoyed at him. And he might have been written like that on purpose, but I wasn't a huge fan either way of the choices of making him like a nerdy, annoying magician that doesn't fit in anywhere. Maybe I've read that a little one too many times, but maybe in 1968, brand new idea. So we also have to take that into consideration, but I've read a little too many, I'm a magician and I don't fit in because I'm nerdy. Like, okay, great. I cared really only for the unicorn and Prince Lear. The other two main characters, side characters, whatever, is Molly Grew and Schmendrick, their magician. I prefer Molly over Schmendrick, but still, Molly was not developed at all, unfortunately. Schmendrick was more developed. Prince Lear was more developed, even though he like comes in pretty late to the book. I don't know what was up with that, but that was a choice, I guess. There are a lot of subtle literary hints and mentions throughout the novel that I enjoyed, like the riddle with no answer from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, which is, why is a raven like a writing desk? No one has an answer to that question, or that riddle, because there's just no answer to that, and I think that was funny that it was mentioned, you know, just kind of in passing. Like, you kind of have to pay attention, or also just know a lot of things. Another one that I liked is the harpy that's imprisoned at the carnival, and she's from ancient Greek legends. And you see both of those instances in the movie as well, which I appreciated. Now, we're going back to Smendrick. Smendrick being the idiot that is trying to get better, but he's also annoying, and he knows but doesn't know that he has magical abilities, so like, I don't know, there was just a little too much going on with Smendrick, but I thought it was just telling, I guess you would say, of Smendrick, where he is freaking out when the unicorn releases the harpy from her prison, and Smendrick's like, oh my god, you just killed us all, like, why did you do that? Like, he knows. Okay, the unicorn is an immortal, and so is the harpy. Like, they don't get along, but like, they understand each other in a way. And I think it's just funny when you know, the harpy goes after the mama, what's her name, whatever, the woman that runs the carnival and like steals harpies and unicorns, and the unicorn just kind of starts to walk away, and then Smendrick wants to run away, and the unicorn's like, calm down, you don't run away from immortals, you walk away. I'm like, yes, that's right. And they just gracefully walk into the forest, and we are on our way. I don't know why I like that. It's just, it's a telling between the unicorn versus a human that thinks he knows it all, and we are set up with that dichotomy that you see throughout the novel. And when he messes up and turns her into a human that then catches the eye of Prince Lear, and who's the hero, right? And he's doing all that he can, but he doesn't realize that she's basically a unicorn in a human body, and no one wants to tell him. And then, like, at the end, he figures it out. And I would be more upset at Smendrick if I was Prince Lear. But Prince Lear, you know, he's very heroic and princely, and he forgives everyone, which, good for you, Prince Lear. I wouldn't be as nice as you, but that's why you're the hero of this story. And I just wish the magician wasn't so needy and sneaky with his goals when he agrees to help the unicorn, but I guess he could be seen as a morally gray character as much as you can, because they're, like, at the end of the novel, I think maybe Peter was trying to make him a better character from the beginning, like some type of story or a character arc, not story arc, but maybe a story arc, like have a character arc with him in some way. I don't know if that was done very well, because he still annoyed me. In the movie, he is very skinny, just not really put together very well, but he's still a bit of a know-it-all. But then in this particular book, I don't know about other ones, but in this particular book with the illustrations, he's like the tall, dark, handsome, broody wizard, like handsome wizard, but he's not a wizard, he's a magician. I don't know why there's like a stark contrast between the approved illustrations for this particular book and probably other ones versus the cartoon, where completely different, just different looks whatsoever. Not saying that a tall, dark, and handsome guy can not be immature and a morally great character. Obviously not. We have a lot of young adult fantasy out there that proves that to be not true. But in this case, it's not making sense to me, you know, just not making sense. They made him, I guess, look princely when he is not a prince, and he is not the same as Prince Lear whatsoever. And that might have bothered me, because I preferred the unicorn and Prince Lear. Not together. I knew that they were not going to get together anyway, because she is a unicorn, she is an immortal, and she's going to want to become a unicorn again and live out her happy, long life with the other unicorns that she helped release. But just as two characters, as two individuals, I think it was a very good dichotomy, and those two were fleshed out, I think. I wanted to see more with Molly. Like I said, she was one-dimensional, very homely, just doing all the cooking and cleaning, and like a mother figure. But, you know, in the illustrations for this novel, she has long blonde hair. She's looking like a princess type of thing, which is, I don't know, it's a little weird. But then in the movie, you know, short hair, kind of raggedy clothes. She's short in the movie. It's like weird differences in what the book illustrations look like versus what they came up with the style of Molly and Smendrick in general. But the prince looked about the same, so okay, interesting choices. I wanted Molly to be a little bit more than just a mom figure that cleans up after everyone, but I guess we can't all have nice things, right? So overall, I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I said that before, but yeah, 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I bumped it down on Goodreads to 3 stars. I just couldn't get it up to 4 stars. The writing was very pretty. I liked it, had a very whimsical, magical touch to it. He is good at portraying magic in a serious way, but also a fun way. And he also kind of uses simple language, so not like flowery or purple prose that you might find in other earlier fantasy books, probably because was for children. So I appreciated that as well. But the world building and the characters, other than the unicorn and the prince, I just could have gotten a little more from that, and so we leave it at 3.5 out of 5 stars. But I would recommend it to people that are interested in classical fantasy and they want to know what this book is about in regards and in contrast to the movie, because I think the movie is a little bit more well known than the book. I watched the movie and then I was told that there's a book. Didn't get to it for a long time, but that was the timeline. And I've heard other people have that realization, like, oh, it's a book too. So I think that's kind of interesting. And this is one of Peter's most famous books, and I can see why. But I can also see why the movie did better, because there are just some things, like the magical whimsicalness of like the forest or like the actual unicorn, it being better suited for the screen. So that's just my thoughts on The Last Unicorn. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great rest of your day. Keep reading, keep writing, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!